just wanna be honest. I just wanna be honest.
What's going on, guys? Atomic Moon here. It's Tuesday. I am here at my home studio. I have the TV volume on, so I'm going to mute that real quick. Wanted to do a tutorial video today, and I wanted to talk about an effect that I heard on a San Holo song that he released. I think it was a week ago, maybe 2 weeks ago. This vocal effect that he does it on a lot of his songs, and I think one of my favorite things about his productions that he does is he's able to take these very large sounding drops and very atmospheric large trap beats, and then all of a sudden pull everything together to where it's this am I recording? Yeah, okay. He pulls everything together to where it's basically emulating a music box. So you have this big loud thing followed by everything being shrunken down to just this little, tiny dancer twirling around and something playing in the background. If you listen to the song is called Honest. That came out a couple weeks ago. There's a music video for it on YouTube. I'll link it. It's also on his SoundCloud. So go listen to that to know what I'm talking about. It's kind of towards the end of the song. And it's just this kind of effect of something coming out of like an old record player, like a phonograph or something like that. And like I said, he uses it on a lot of his songs. And kind of the basis of the sound, basically the sound is just kind of a vocal that's being pitch corrected and formant shifted. We'll get into what that is. And then also ran into a bit crusher, some EQ, and some other stuff going on. But a lot of the sound is coming from the pitch correct and the formant shift. So, manipulating vocals is something that has been a big part of EDM through the years, will continue to be a big part of EDM through the years. And I find it fascinating because the reason that the vocals get edited in this manner is because for a lot of the producers, they're recording their own vocals for vocal parts that they need, and they just can't stand the sound of their own voice. So they go through and they make these drastic edits to it to completely change the sound of it. Porter Robinson, in his single that came out around the same time that this single came out and said that all of the vocals are sang by him, but you wouldn't really know it by listening to it because it sounds so drastically different. So what I'm using to change the pitch, so let me take off all the processing. Like I said, this is going to be the finished product. If I take all that off, all of the processing off, this is just me singing the lines into a microphone.
I just want us to be honest.
I'm just doing this for the purpose of the tutorial. I didn't really spend a lot of time on it. It was just, and in fact, I thought about talking the words and editing the notes to actually fit the melody, but whatever. This is our dry signal.
Just want us to be.
Just me singing the chorus line into just a dry, just a dry signal. So we'll go through one by one what exactly I'm doing to process this. My first plugin that I have is just kind of a basic EQ. It's more of a corrective EQ, just taking out a couple of low frequencies and like a harsh frequency that I had up here, going into the pitch correct. Now the pitch correct that I'm using is the pitch correct that is inside of Cubase, and I use Cubase 5. My particular DAW has been around for like 10 years. So this software is about 10 years old. So there's been many advancements made in the field of pitch correct since this particular software came out. San Holo himself uses Ableton Live. Ableton Live is really good if you're into this type of effect. I would highly recommend using Ableton Live because of just the different ways that you can warp audio in there. They have different algorithms for different types of manipulation and things like that. So really, Ableton Live is kind of better suited for this particular type of production. However, you can do this type of thing in any DAW. There's really no if you understand the technique, you can it can translate over into any DAW. So I'm gonna go ahead and completely reset the auto tune on here. This is what it sounds like with the auto tune.
I just want us to be honest.
Okay, so I'm gonna reset it.
I just want us to be honest.
Okay, and we're gonna go through what all parameters are inside the pitch correct, and just keep in mind that these parameters are gonna be the same no matter what DAW you're using, as long as you just understand what the pitch correct does. Okay, so the first one on here is speed. I know you probably can't read that very well on OBS, but you'll have to take my word for it. The first one is speed, and this is basically just the amount of correction. This is essentially going to be the dry wet for how much you're going to want the auto-tune to have an effect on the vocal. So set to 0, it's going to be dry. Set to 100, it's going to be all the way auto-tuned.
I just want us to be honest.
So I'm going to go ahead and with a heavy auto-tuned effect that I'm going for, I'm going to go ahead and set that to 100% to where it's all the way, it's all the way wet. The tolerance is going to affect how, basically how smooth the auto-tune is taking place. So if you're wanting a Kanye West really over the top, like a T-Pain over the top auto-tune correct, then you're probably going to want this to be at 100.
I just want us to be honest.
But for that's not really what I'm going for with this sound. When it comes up, when the initialized patch comes on, it's set at 50, and so that's kind of where I'm just going to leave it. So it's a little bit smooth. I mean, it's still auto-tuned, but it's a little bit smoother than if I would have set it all the way at 100.
I just want us to be honest.
Okay, so my next parameter that's coming on is transpose. Now, transpose is how you're going to actually shift it. If you want to shift the entire vocal, typically you would either go down 1 octave or you would go up 1 octave. So if I went down on transpose 1 octave, which is 12 semitones, then it's...
I just want us to be honest.
Or if I went up 12 semitones... I'm just typing.
I just want us to be honest.
This would be helpful if you were trying to do, if you were trying to do harmonies, this is where you would use the transpose. Because this is actually changing the key of what you're working with, of your source material. It's actually changing the pitch and changing the key. Now, but when you listen to the song that I'm referring to, you can tell that there's definitely, it sounds like the tonality of the voice is lowered, and you would think that you would do this with transpose, but no, like the transpose would actually change the pitch. So if you lowered it, or made it higher, and you could easily just get it out of key, and it would sound terrible. So transpose is not, for this particular effect, is not what you want to use. What he does use is he does the formant shift. Now the formant shift, it shifts the tonality of the source material, making it sound lower, making it sound higher, but it keeps it at the same pitch to where it's still in key. It's still fitting with the rest of the music, but it's changing the way the tonality of the sound is, either making it lower or making it higher. And that's what he's using for this effect. And this is a pretty cool effect if you start messing around with it. Me, myself, if you listen to my song, You, that I came out with on my Alone EP, this is an effect that I use on that song. And basically, like I said, it shifts the tonality of the source sound without actually taking it out of pitch. So,
I just want us to be honest. I just want us to be honest. I just want us to be honest. I just want us to be honest.
And the good thing about this is that, you can shift it around. You can kind of dial in what you would want as far as where you want it pitched at without, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but if you're using a transpose, you could either go down an octave or up an octave. But when you use the formant shift, you actually have a little bit of area in between there that you can work with. For this song, like I said, San Holo uses this effect a lot, and he uses it a lot of different ways. Sometimes he pitches the vocal up, sometimes he pitches it down. In this particular song, he's pitching it up, but for this demonstration, I just thought that the downshift sounded a little bit better. And like I said, he's used the downshift on other songs before. So this is kind of what I landed on.
I just want us to be honest.
So this is with it off.
I just want us to be honest. I just want us to.
So you can hear the shift. From there, this particular auto tune has just kind of some settings for how the algorithm changes the pitch. Like I said, this particular plugin's pretty old. In Ableton Live, they actually have a lot more parameters and a lot different ways that the algorithm can be manipulated to give you different types of effects. So there's a lot more options in that with Ableton Live than in Cubase 5, which is what I'm using. But I'm going to go ahead and just, it gives me 3 options: general, male, female. This is mainly for what the timbre is. If it's a low timbre, if it's a high timbre, I'm just going to go with male. And then format preservation, I just kind of A/B
I just want us to be honest.
I'm not really noticing any sort of drastic difference, so I'm just going to leave it on for now. Your scale source, if you're using auto-tune, it's very important to know what key your song is in, so that you can make sure that your auto-tune is correcting things to the right key. A lot of time, I feel like people that are just first messing with auto-tune don't really think about it, but you have to actually provide what key your song is in for the auto-tune to really operate at full efficiency. I went and kind of messed around and figured out what the key was, and it's B major, which is actually a pretty common key that San Holo writes in. It's a pretty common key altogether. So I'm going to go to major source and then B. So this is going to correct it specifically within the notes that are in the key of the song. So this is a very important step if you're planning on using auto-tune on a song. You want it to only correct to the notes that are in the scale.
I just want us to be honest.
So that's what we've got. This is our dry vocal.
I just want us to be honest.
And this is our pitch corrected vocal.
I just want us to be honest.
And really, this signal chain is very similar to the chain that if you look at my old videos of the Kanye West distorted auto-tune vocal, this is basically the same idea. Because after that, we're going directly into a bit crusher. A bit crusher gives you that, like, really, I really don't know how to describe it, just digitized kind of sound, but also making it sound older, like a Game Boy, something like that. And I don't mess around too much with bit crushers, but I did find this bit crusher in a plugin pack, that the Xfer Records plugin pack. If you do any sort of production, free my 2 favorite free plugin packs are the Xfer Records free plugin pack and the Blue Cat plugin pack. So definitely those are, in my opinion, must-have free plugin packs for anybody that's into production. And this is the Xfer pack has OTT. It's got Dimension Expander and plugins that everybody that mixes electronic music uses. So, and also in there is this little 8-bit shaper that I saw. And I don't incredibly know everything that's going on with this, but I messed around with it for a little bit and got what I think is a pretty good a pretty good sound. I didn't mess around with it too much though, but this is kind of what I landed on.
I just want us to be honest.
And as you can tell, it's really distorted. Which I thought about dialing back, but then listening to the original song, he has it pretty distorted. So I kind of left it in there, even though for me personally, it's probably a little bit more distorted than I think it should be. I don't know.
I just want us to be honest.
So that's what we have with the bit crusher.
I just want us to be honest.
I just want us to be honest.
So as you can hear, there's a lot of tonality. It's really driving the signal a lot, and it's a pretty drastic change. After this, I went into Isotope Vinyl, once again, a free plugin I've discussed on other videos. I didn't really do too much with this. I'm mainly using this as an EQ, and I don't really know what San Holo's signal would be and how he would process it. I know he's really into like tape emulation and things like that. He might have a tape machine that he runs things into, or he might have different plugins that he uses to get his tape effects, which is another one of my favorite things about his productions, is his tape effects and the way that he does it, the way he uses it on guitars and things like that. So I put Isotope Vinyl next after the Bit Crusher. It's kind of taking out some of the lows and some of the highs, and it's also giving me a little bit of warp to change like the pitch of the vocal a little bit. So
I just want us to be honest. I just want us to be honest.
So as you can tell, it's like we're starting to hear that, a vinyl sound, like the sound of a record player or some sort of external audio source is what it's supposed to sound like.
I just want us to be honest.
Like it's coming through a telephone or something. So once again, this is
I
dry.
just want us to be honest. I just want us to be honest.
So yeah. From there, I put an EQ on here, rolling off some lows. I had some really harsh mid frequencies that I took out, and I added in some more highs. And so,
I just want us to be honest.
as you can tell, like the mids are kind of pretty scooped, and the highs are brought up.
I just want us to be honest.
It's kind of introducing a weird S sound. I don't know. I can't remember if I addressed that later in the mix. But okay, so that's my basic. That's how I'm processing the original vocal. How long is this? We're right 20 minutes into this now. That's how I'm processing my original mono signal. And so this is all my mono signal. I'm sending this. I needed some stereo effects because when I listened to the song, it was clearly in stereo. So I routed this channel to another channel that is my stereo effects channel. Oh, also I have an EQ on here. Okay, so to even take it one step further, after the Isotope Vinyl, I went and rolled off the lows and then rolled off the highs to further give it that telephone like stereo type feel. So
I just want us to be honest.
So yeah. And as you can tell, there's like a drop off in volume, but I add some volume in later. Okay, so this is the mono channel is being routed to the stereo effects channel. Stereo effects channel has a chorus on it.
I just want us to be honest.
Where am I? I'm gonna add this back in. Okay.
I just want us.
Okay, that's better. Once again, talk about Blue Cat. The Blue Cat chorus. I love this plugin. I always put it at the end of something and just mess around with it. It's great. I landed on a preset of Clean Chorus 2. And then the spread was at 0 for it, so I put the spread up a little, or all the way at 100%. And I thought this was giving me, because what I'm going for right here is just some stereo spread, and that's what the chorus is doing right here.
I just want us to be honest.
So this is without.
I just want us to be I just want us to be honest.
if you're listening to this on a phone or some mono source, then you probably can't tell that it's in a stereo spread. And then going, my next step, I went into a reverb. Yeah, once it just putting just more stereo width into the sound. Like my reverb time's at 0.16. Like the reverb time isn't why the reverb's in there. It's just there to create a little bit more stereo width or whatever. But if you're into it, if you have this reverb on here, there's a lot of different ways that you can manipulate it. Here is it with the reverb.
I just want us to be honest. I just want us to be honest.
As you can hear, it's very dry sounding.
I just want us to be honest.
It's giving it a little bit more of like a bathroom sound or something like that. But if you're looking ways to manipulate this audio, there's a lot of different things you can do within this reverb. Just like,
I just want us to be honest. I just want us to be honest.
like that type of thing. If you wanted to automate that and add it in as a different effect. So yeah, and then that's going into an EQ. And all I'm doing with this EQ is just bumping up the gain. Just giving me like more gain so that the signal's a little bit louder. Okay, so taking this a step further, listening to the song, he does a transition to where the vocal is very processed, and then it dries up, and it's back to the way that it normally is. And all you would do if you were trying to go for something like that is, it's a little bit tedious, but you have to go to every one of your plugins that you're processing it with to give it the 8-bit effect, and then just dry wet it and eventually fade it out. So that's what I did here. I have a dry wet for my pitch correction, my detunement, my 8-bit shaper, my vinyl, and then even going down to my reverb and my stereo chorus. So when I play this through, it goes from being wet and then it transitions to being dry.
I just want us to be honest. I just want us to be honest.
I just want us to be honest. I just want us to be honest.
So like I said, I just made this for a YouTube tutorial. It obviously sounds better in the record, because he knows what he's doing. But that's what you would do if you're trying to do something like that, going from wet to dry. And I really like how he does it in the song. I really like the song, although Lost Lately, that came out in the summer, I think was probably my favorite song to come out by him in the last, or since album 1 came out. Anyway, that's I wanted to make a video about this because it kind of touches up on some other stuff I talked about the other week, talking about adding effects to your effect channels. And so yeah, guys, hopefully you are thinking about things a different way now. Maybe you got some ideas. Maybe you turn this off. I don't know. Anyways, I'll catch you guys later. Y'all be safe.